And we are recording episode 905, Thursday, September 8th, 4:18 p.m. Eastern, 2022, with Mr. George Webb, the connoisseur of China dust. And China dust is not citizen journal. George Webb, how to get started telling the story, telling your story. Mr. George Webb has written many books, which are on his website, neighborhoodnewsstudio.com. I'll put that in the description. I have several signed copies by George Webb. Go buy them, go support them so these evil Marxist, technocratic, pedophile dictators can't keep censoring us. And China Dust, I don't know, maybe that is also heroin, but I don't think we're not talking about heroin this episode, at least. Mr. George Webb, because I've got you for 35 minutes, 36 minutes. What is China Dust?
Well, I believe China dust, for those who don't know, Trump said at the big Wilkes-Barre rally, huge crowds because of the raid, huge crowds because of the Biden, Nazi speech, that, he says China dust and he says it came into our country. I think of China dust as being inanimate, like dust. And I do think there is a potential tell here and a distinction between what's called a pseudovirus, something that chemically acts like a virus, but it doesn't replicate, doesn't have the genetic material, and then a real virus, an attenuated virus. And they have big different uses in the two. And I talk about that. I talk about China dust, actually, in this beautiful book. It's 125 pages, beautifully illustrated, fantastic photography, and there it is. That's the plug, Tommy, right there.
And if you order one, I'm pretty sure George will sign it. I don't know. Maybe you have to make a special request.
You'll have to meet me somewhere to sign it
Ooh.
because, but I travel quite a bit, and the key here is I wrote it with Addy Ads, who and what you'll see here is right up front, table of contents, indexes, footnotes, glossary. You'll see all this other stuff. Plus, Tommy's thrown in a thing about Prather and about me and about Sean Atwood. So it's 125 pages. Good deal.
And
Kindle, I think, is only like $5. So anyway, you have to search for Addy Ads or type out citizen journalism. You'll find it.
I'll put those links in the description as well as your Twitter. I highly recommend following George's Twitter.
Yeah,
2-minute videos every day. You're the Forrest Gump of traveling. Every time I look at you, you're like standing in front of the Taj Mahal, and then you're standing in front of Fort Benning, and then you're on like the South Pole, and then you're in like Kiev, and then you're in like Johannesburg. But he's everywhere. But
yeah, well, it is, in journalism, at least when you go there, you get the W right. You get the where. At least people know you got that far, and it's a lot easier to get who and what and when you're there, because you can start asking people. You can go to the restaurants, you can start asking people questions, and they'll say, oh, no, or oh, yeah. So anyway, your question, China dust. And I get into it a little bit in this book, but I get even more into it in a book called Rock Island Virus that I'm rewriting. If you want to, let's say, prepare United States troops for what they may encounter in foreign wars, one way is to just send them all over there. They get sick, and then you bring them all back dying or sick to the United States, and then start a pandemic in the United States. But there's another way. There's a thing in the Army has called the Defense Threat Reduction Agency to try to reduce that threat, DTRA or DTRA, at Fort Belvoir. And what they do is they say, hey, wait a minute, if we can go out and capture and get to these things early when it's still, a little lantern in Mrs. O'Leary's barn, and catch the fire in the barn, quickly capture it, bring it back, or in some laboratory, isolate it, run the sequence out, and then send the sequence back to DTRA, we can create a particle that on the outside looks almost exactly like the virus, the spikes, if you will. We don't really need to deal with the inside, the genetic material, so that it can replicate. So it doesn't have to be a real virus. It could be a pseudovirus, because when the spikes go into your bloodstream, if we create a vaccine out of this, your body still is going to create antibodies to the spikes. And so you're going to be vaccinated, and that's how vaccines created, but it's not going to replicate because it doesn't have the ball, if you will, doesn't have the genetic material. Okay. So in any situation in the world where you have a new novel breakout, what we want to do at the US State Department, we also have people traveling back and forth to these countries. We want to get ahead of virus breakouts there too. Same idea applies. Well, this happened in Wuhan. Something happened. I think it was a very small release of a lab leak on September the 11th. They did a huge air conditioning upgrade on September the 16th, I think it was. Trump signed the mRNA presidential order, I think on the 17th or maybe the 19th. So there's something that happened. I've been given hints that I'm on the right track as far as a memo, a 9/11 memo, not a 9/11 2001 memo, but a 9/11 a coronavirus memo 2019, the coronavirus memo. And I believe that if they then said, hey, wait a minute, this could have spread, what we need to do is we need to inoculate Wuhan. And we need somebody who can develop a nanoparticle which looks like this new novel thing that may have escaped. And we'd like to call in our partner, the Chinese government like to call in the partner, the US State Department, and go ahead and spread this thing. You can spread this thing in the air. It can be inhaled and through cigarettes. You can put it in food. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter. It's not a real virus. It's not going to replicate and spread. So you can put it in the fish and the heme of the blood of the fish, or you can put it in the air and have it spray throughout the city, etc. Some people will get sick that react really super sensitively. Other people will just get it like a shot and develop the antibodies. Some people won't develop the antibodies at all. So it's not a complete fix. But we have evidence to show that this is what happened over the last 20 years with Ralph Baric at the University of North Carolina lab and Zhang Li of the Wuhan lab. They've been working on these spikes and working on these pseudoparticles. And actually the pseudoparticle for coronavirus was done in 2008. So that's the hypothesis that the thing that we think of as the early breakout may have been a pseudoparticle or China dust. And then later on, the live virus comes to the United States.
It's one of those weird moments, like when you read about how James G. Sangleton had a file on Lee Harvey Oswald. You're like, well, that makes sense. It's starting in 1959, and you're like, what? Or Project for a New American Century, talking about like toppling nations in the Middle East. You're like, yeah, I mean, I know history, and then you see it's like a year before 9/11, and you're like, hold up, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, MITRE, Nellie Warren MITRE and her underling, Lisa Page, were working in Lisa Page wasn't, but Nellie Orr in 1999. MITRE ran the 911 simulation, 2001, for the FAA, and they were in the basement of the FAA with a company called PTEC, a Pakistani-Israeli firm, 2 years before 9/11. So there are things that make you go,
Was it Operation Vigilant Guardian, like the day of 9/11?
Yep.
Huh, that's what we call, as Tim Dillon says, that wasn't a coincidence. A coincidence is when you're born in Long Island and 30 years later you go on a cruise and you meet someone else from Long Island. That's a coincidence. No, it's not a coincidence that the Bush family was having dinner with the Hinckley family the night Hinckley started firing wildly at Reagan and the Bushes were set to ascend to the throne. That's not a coincidence. But so with China Dust, you touched on something that, I mean, all the episodes are just blurring together, but it was about 2 years ago when I had on Claire Lopez, Lopez LLC, 20-year veteran of the CIA, and we did an episode about the Club K missile system, the warheads, the launch, the Chinese-owned ports, which that's nightmare fuel. If you want that, just go Google Club K missile system. There is a gun to our head at all times, and that's kind of what I guess caught my attention was the animation in that video you had uploaded, referring to your previous deceased partner task force about the Club K missile system, I think China Dust, and what amounts to a false flag on the United States to draw us into war with China.
Yeah. That's going to be Rock Island Virus. That's my next book. I've
Did I
been
just spoil it?
No,
Okay.
it's a perfect lead-in. It's
All
a
right.
perfect lead-in. Yeah, in the book, you'll find that a Russian general named Sechin, the same guy who did the pipeline deal across China for Russian oil and for a company called Rosneft, that guy, that Sechin, is also part of a company called the Crescent Group, and they're coming into Port Canaveral, which just happens to be our Trident nuclear sub base, as well as where we shoot off our Saturn V rockets and the new Atlas rocket, of
A
course.
coincidence, George.
You never want to go to some like Fort Pierce,
Yeah.
you always want to go to the most top secret place.
You don't want to go to Boston Harbor or some shit.
No. I mean, especially when ice is over. But then we have a odd partner in the company. He's the Iraqi. You remember Nuclear Ali? You're probably maybe old enough to remember Nuclear Ali in the first Gulf War. Okay, he was the top expert for the chemical weapon and nuclear, and then there was Chemical Ali that did the chems. Well, Nuclear Ali is the partner in the company. What could go wrong? Nuclear Ali, along with the Russian general coming in and out of where all of our nuclear submarines are, it's a match made in heaven, right? So we find that there's a lot of things that Mr. Sechin, other than being the top executive for Rosneft oil, it's often a cover for weapons, bringing weapons into the United States, like these Club K missiles. The company to export Russian missile technology is called Rosbaron Export, and they make the Club K, and it's made to fit inside containers to hide the fact that there are these covert missiles. They're 20-foot containers or they're 40-foot containers. They're traveling along the highway on pickup on the semi loads. Yeah, trains. They're on container ships. And then all of a sudden they wake up at 4 a.m. The elevators open up and anyway, my partner, as you mentioned, task force, believed that this was the delivery system for bio agents. If you had an insurrection in the United States, a much better way to handle it, other than firing nuclear missiles or conventional explosives, would be to fire some kind of non-lethal or potentially lethal, but some kind of knockout gas, etc., from these pre-positioned missiles. So that's called MAVNI, military assets vitally needed in case of insurrection.
What's the acronym?
MAVNI. They've changed it to mean in case of something else, but it was originally in case of insurrection.
MAVNI.
MAVNI.
What is it again? Military assets
vitally needed in case of insurrection. Yeah, and they were bringing in, they were pre-positioning all this stuff at fake mosques or mosques fronts. They were going to proxy this off and say that Muslim terrorists did it.
Of course.
And yeah, of course, global war on terror may as well start right here at home. And so this is a theory. This is a theory that she brought from her contacts at Joint Special Operations Command, which is Fort Bragg and then SOCOM and down in Tampa. I don't know if it's true or it isn't true. I followed a lot of the leads. I did find a lot of the things that she said got verified after her death. So that's what the book's about. And China Dust is a big part of it. China Dust is a huge part of it because the payload of the rocket is Russian, but the payload is this joint venture between the American universities. She didn't know about UNC at that time, but between American universities and China, hence the China Dust. It was called China Cover. She called it China Cover for covering a big area, and also the fact that it wouldn't be a war with China if these missiles come and we think they're coming from China. They're actually being fired from Saskatoon or some other place and already very close in the United States.
There's something I was thinking about this yesterday about false flags, and I mean you can pull off a false flag against in Afghanistan or Iraq. Let's just say 9/11 was an inside job, which is fucking, even if you don't believe it, it's just thought experiment. You can kind of pull it off a country that not only are you more advanced than, but against the rest of the world is pretty archaic, right? A kind of Middle Eastern, I mean, just tribal warlords for several millennia. You can kind of, how are you going to how are you going to deny that? They can't really provide their own satellite images of us or they're not cracking our encrypted messages between DARPA and Fort Detrick. And it'd be a little harder to do it against China or Russia. I mean, you would have almost like a Trumpian equivalent of like Xi getting on Twitter and being like, we would never do this. Why would we fire missiles full of bioweapons at the United States? The only way you could do it, I suppose you'd have to trick China into thinking they did it, thinking it was like a rogue general. Get like some Dongfeng missiles or something, and you'd have to have right because you couldn't just fake it because they've all got satellites too. We're all looking at missile plumes. It would have to be like the idea of Operation Northwoods was right to like blow up airliners, and then we wouldn't break the news. We would have like Cuban reporters break it to the world, and then we would be like, oh, we didn't even notice that. So you'd almost have to fire like genuine Chinese missiles from like a Chinese, I don't know, a submarine or something. You would have to make them believe that it was a rogue Chinese general. Because otherwise, I don't see how you could do it against a near peer competitor.
Well, they if it's just a onesie, let's just say for all of a sudden, all the people in Centerville, Louisiana, witness a horrible beating of some MAGA guy.
Sure.
And they say, okay, that's it. We're getting the pickup trucks. We're getting the AR-15. We're driving to Baton Rouge. That's it. Well, it would be, a missile could be deployed 10 miles ahead of them, and then it could hit in the ground and then release the agent either colorless or colorful if you wanted to make it seem like, hey, you're being gassed, turn around. So and then you could say, hey, it's a leak. And we had a similar toxic leak in Centerville in Louisiana, and these two Russian gals, and it was a leak from a carbon black factory. So people are getting asphyxiated or however overcome with smoke. Well, it was an industrial accident. Okay, that's a onesie. But if there's another type of incident, which is that's it, Trump was arrested and we saw him get Rodney Kinged, out in front of Mar-a-Lago, and everybody saw that at once, and then everyone was up in arms and they said, that's it, we're going for the state capitals or whatever. Then you would have cut internet, cut power, blocked roads, and now the smoke would fly. Or the other scenario here is there is a world war going on. I mean, this is the Henry Kissinger memorandum 200, where you want to get rid of half of the people in the country, and you just cut power, cut electricity, fire the missiles. Everybody over 50 dies. And we say that was a horrible war and we need more money now in the Department of Defense. There's a lot of different scenarios. So I have the scenario, which is the latter, the last one, which was the kind of the doomsday Henry Kissinger memo 200. We need to get the population down by half,
The useless eaters.
Yeah.
The useless eaters. He's, I don't know if I'm surprised that he outlived the queen.
That was, maybe he thinks she's the leak. I keep thinking, I think Kissinger's going through all the people who leaked that Matt Pottinger was his guy to stab Trump. Do
you think Kissinger had her knocked off?
No, I don't. But
maybe I'll take that stance. I don't care.
No, I don't. I don't think he did. But
George, I don't represent George. I think that Kissinger and Klaus had her killed.
Well, I don't. God rest her soul. I was just
sure,
a couple of times. I have nothing against the Queen at
all. I'm being an asshole.
No,
of course.
I'm prefacing.
She's a 96-year-old woman. I rest in peace.
I'm getting all my curtsies and bows out of the way.
So you can run for office one day.
No, so I could save the Jews, which is her husband. I mean, this is not made up conspiracy theory. Her husband's very interested in the virus, the
Hmm.
China dust kind of thing that we're talking about, only the real live one. And Prince Bernhard, that started with IG Farben guy who started Bilderberg, was very interested in this. The World Wildlife Fund for a lot of a lot of land was put aside, but that was to take land from the sovereign nations of Africa to preposition something. I mean, you could believe an ex-IG Farben guy really did care about the elephants. It's hard to believe that people believe that the guy who stashed all uh, the Nazi bioweapons guys after World War II is really that interested in giraffes. But people want to believe it, and they buy the World Wildlife Fund patches. I mean, and he, I mean, Prince Philip was a very active MI6 and very active in keeping the possessions of England, and very active in how do we subjugate uprisings and so forth. In possession after possession, this is what came up. And he worked a lot with international partners, even and after the Soviet Union fell, recruiting people to England to Porton Down, their scientists, for exactly this reason. They kept the program going through South Africa, through proxies like South Africa and other partners, and in Africa through AFRICOM, our United States AFRICOM in Africa. So, you know, Queen Elizabeth dying right now, I think it's going to be 1 or 2 days of falderal and so forth, and funeral, and then everybody's going to realize that, wait a minute, what is the royal family really focused on over the last 50 years? It's going to be bioagents. I hate to say it, but that's the number one focus of the royal family.
Just bioagents.
Bioagents, since, I mean, if you look at Churchill, it goes back to 27, the first time he used poison gas
Yeah,
on indigenous populations in Iraq, and this was always the way that British Petroleum would keep their oil fields. It's the force multiplier. It's the number. It's the ultimate force multiplier.
it's as old as time. I mean, you one army gets the plague or some virus. I mean that's shifted world events probably more than marching armies.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, if you could take control of that, right? It's the allure of controlling weather. I mean, weather has had. I mean, how many storms have decided maritime battles over the millennia? If you could
Well,
control that,
land
yeah.
battles as well.
Oh
Battle
yeah.
of all. I mean, you go through all the battles.
Oh yeah.
Waterloo. So I think that technology, Operation Popeye technology, certainly exists, and they didn't stop. In Vietnam, they didn't
But
stop in Vietnam
what was
with
it?
Operation Popeye was to seed the clouds. And,
Oh
yeah. Um, and, and that really is effective if you're using a hand cart to move an artillery piece down the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and
yeah.
all of a sudden there's a torrential monsoon and
Monsoon. Just
slows you down. Yeah,
that's kind of another talk that I've never really even looked into, but I think it's fascinating. Would be the controlling of. I mean, talk about the ultimate plausible deniability. Just just weaponizing weather. Do you think that that is? And I know we're kind of deviating off the topic, but do you think that that's something that's something that's matured? I mean, if we're doing it in Vietnam, I don't think it would just. We didn't when we retired the SR-71 Blackbird. We didn't just go, all right, no more recon. No, it's got the NRO and the National Geospatial Agency. I mean, we're looking at your retina from orbit. Like, so if we are seeding clouds in Nam, I mean, it's been 50 plus years. Why wouldn't that have been matured? Your audio cut out.
I just drove by Eglin Air Force Base, and I think there's an SR-71 in the front yard. And the only reason I don't know is because an absolutely torrential rainstorm came out of nowhere. So I don't know if this is how you defend the base. You just create a deluge to stop the enemy or whatever. I was just driving by, guys. It's a public highway. But yeah, it did make me think of Operation Popeye, and that was 50 years ago. it is a great way to do a non-lethal defense.
Yeah.
You can't see. I mean, I'm going 5 miles an hour in my car. Everything stops to a standstill. And now your force multipliers of radar and infrared and everything really kick in. So I think bioagents are the same sort of idea. You know, the enemy falls asleep. That's even better.
Yeah.
They're not driving 5 miles an hour, they're asleep.
Yeah.
And then all you need is one guy to go just shoot people that are sleeping. So yeah. I don't want to touch the weather thing because I don't know anything about it. So
I don't know anything either. So I'm not even gonna. I have no problem speculating wildly. I don't know anything about it. So with China dust, how would this? What would be the end goal? Would the end goal be? Would it be pacification of the United States under the guise of a Chinese attack, or would it be a just your good old fashioned classic false flag, a pretense to galvanize the nation and win world support to go to arms against China?
well, I'll tell you how I would do it. And this is speculation complete. But if you had a air delivery system, let's say a very silent drone, or you could jam the recon in such a way that it would look like a flock of birds, or whatever. You could give a signature that looked natural, and you could dust an area. This has been used. Smart dust has been used for since Vietnam, right? Trying to track insurgents, track guerrillas, and so forth. And one of the ways is outside the clothing, dusting the outside of the clothing. But the other way is getting people to ingest things that then can be biometrically paired with things like a cell phone that they carry. So if you dust a river like the Yangtze River or the mountains, and the China dust runs down these particles that don't degrade, and then fish eat them, and they glom on to different bacteria and so forth in the water, then the fish could bring this in and internalize these things. And so as people eat the fish, they internalize the nanoparticles. Same thing for the water, same thing for the air they breathe. But after time, they would start you could develop signatures for different people who live in different areas. You can spray a certain type of dust, which they did for Osama bin Laden out by the cave he was at, Tora Bora. And if now you see that terrorist dust, super red alert dust, coming into a bazaar in Faisalabad, then you go, red alert, pick them up, stop them, and that's how Operation Blackjack was told to me by task force, that she had people saying this is the program. And there is some kind of biometric, I don't know how it works, some kind of biometric link up between the phone and other devices that you could walk by somebody, and like a scanner at the airport, LiDAR scanner would be the first thing that would potentially see this and go, oh, red alert.
Yeah,
this is
beep, beep, beep.
Yeah, this is the red alert terrorist dust. All speculation, but I know a lot of effort's been put into this smart dust. Is that what China dust was? It makes sense. 10,000 athletes go to the Wuhan games where we have the big breakout. You dust them all, and then you watch them go all the way back to the airport, to their home country airport, and then all the way to their house.
Yeah.
So they give you're tracking all 10,000 of the most elite athletes in the world all the way back to their 100 home countries.
Yeah.
And the coaches.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's evil, but I mean, God, it's brilliant. I mean, I mean, not only that, I mean, the dust could be as, depending on where you spray it, I mean, every dust could be as unique as a fingerprint or your social security number, or, just the blood vessel patterns in your eye, or like a retina scan. I mean, you really could forget having a burner phone. I mean, this could be paired to you inexorably. I mean, you think they dusted like January 6th? I bet they probably did something like that. They probably dusted the Portland rioters.
It probably makes sense, and I'm
Sure.
sorry.
No. Yeah, I was gonna say that.
It probably makes sense again, if I was doing it, I would look at cells that rapidly divide in your body. And if I could seed the cells that rapidly divide in your body, then you would yourself make copies of your own identifying code.
Yeah.
So there's these cells that are going around your body called pluripotent stem cells that are
Yep.
made in your blood
You can become
marrow.
anything. Yeah.
Right. And they can be induced into being a white blood cell or red blood cell or a platelet, etc. You want to get it right before the last point of differentiation. I kind of compare it to coming out of high school or college, and you could do any career you want to do. You're
The last,
pluripotent.
yeah, the last meiotic division.
Yeah, you could go any way you want. And the blood typically becomes the target because you turn over your blood cells every 30 days. You make about 300 or 200 million a day for both the white blood cells and the red blood cells. So this is a way of, hey, once I seed and start inducing each one teach one kind of thing, I start seeding everything in the blood. I now can put a serial number in the blood. And who knows? So there are a lot of blue sky type applications here, and a lot of smart people sitting at whiteboards probably have thought of a lot of things that I haven't thought of. But I'm doing a lot of work right now on clotting and looking at this thing called von Willebrand's factor and looking at ways that you could imitate von Willebrand's or get people's own genome to start making it too much of it, which would cause clots because we have a lot of clotting going on. Long COVID, it's a big problem. The myocarditis with Dr. McCullough talks about it. These sudden heart attacks, you see the people keel over. So that's my big area of interest right now.
I haven't heard that term, I think, since molecular biology. Cell Bio 3400 that I took fall 2013 at UGA. Von Wilder. Yeah.
Oh, von Willebrand factor. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think we had to know it, but I just remember it from a diagram. It's one of those weird things that, like, there's some weird names in like biology that just stick with me forever. Like islet of Langerhans in your pancreas, or the like, Wernicke's area. Like some of them are just so like they're just so ridiculous. Von Will, yeah. I imagine
Well,
like an auto like a clotting factor, but it just kind of sounds like it's like a clotting factor wearing like a pickle helmet and like a mustache. Like this is the Bismarck factor 4.
well, I do think it was discovered by a royal German. The von is a royal designation in Germany. And if you look at regular clotting factor 8 and hemophilia, which you need, most people think, oh, they take clotting factor 8. But in actual fact, your clotting factor 8 is only good in your body for 2 hours without von Willebrand's. Von Willebrand's allows your factor 8 to be 12 hours in your bloodstream. So it protects you a lot longer. If you know your kids are going to go play a football game, I don't know about a football game, but if your hemophiliac kids are going to go horseback riding or something like that, you may not want to cover them just for 2 hours. You may want to cover them for 12 hours. And that's why hemophiliacs actually also have von Willebrand factor in the clotting factor they inject. So but my point is that through interbreeding with Queen Victoria, I think she's the great grandmother of the current queen that
Queen
just
Elizabeth.
died. And they have this porphyria, it's called, which is a malformation of the heme or the porphyrin ring, actually. And it causes some of the porphyrin rings not to be able to hold the oxygen. And if you don't hold as much oxygen as somebody else, it gives you this bluish color or purple color, hence the name blue blood or purple blood. And this is a big problem. Well, you can see where the elites of Europe, you're a knight of Malta, well, you have to be an elite of Europe, right? You would want to spend all the money on figuring this out, right? This is your big genetic thing. Wouldn't it be great if you could take the thing that figures out how to go on to chromosome 12 and program my body into making more von Willebrand, more VFW or BWF? Also could be used as a bioweapon, as a bioagent to get rid of the useless eaters. Because I need the VWF to clot so I don't, when I'm on my horse chase. Yeah. But if you get it, you're going to start developing all kinds of clots going to be thrown to your brain as an aneurysm, thrown to your heart as an aneurysm, slow your ejection, slow your fraction of blood flow in key areas, cause tingling, make diabetes worse, heart disease worse, hardening in the arteries, all the things that come along with constriction. So you've got a it's like Queen Elizabeth's wet dream. I hate to say it on the day she dies, but but it is like let's say Prince Philip's wet dream.
No, no,
Uh,
you already said it. The sentence Queen Elizabeth's wet dream on the day she died, that is a sentence that has never been said in the history of man. That
and,
Queen Elizabeth's wet dream on the day she died.
well, it might have been to see
Maybe.
her husband
Maybe it's what
husband
killed
again.
her. Maybe it's what killed her.
Well, coronavirus is the crown, and a lot of this money for coronavirus research did come from the Wellcome Trust, which is based there in London. Sir Henry Wellcome used bioagents. He was using bioagents in South Africa against the Boers. It was his big force multiplier. Rhodes glommed on to Sir Henry Wellcome because he had the ultimate force multiplier, to take care of the natives. And Sir Henry Wellcome, if you go to the Wellcome Museum, he's got all these treasures from all over the world where they use the bioagent. Well, those dead people don't need their treasures anymore.
Yeah.
Let's cart them off to London. And I don't want to say bad things about the Wellcome Trust, but this is just fact. This is Sir Henry Wellcome. And we identified in our study in 2019 a person who's training everybody in Wuhan during this crazy time of China dust to September 11th, who also is getting vaccine bids for the Wellcome Trust. Now, why is that? Seems like a hand is in the cookie jar.
Mm. And I think you'd really like the book First Platoon by Annie Jacobson about the history of, but really the maturity of like bioidentification. You know, it's kind of goes back all the way to like fingerprints with the FBI, but I mean, kind of into really what we saw in GWAT, right? We've all seen the images of the soldiers, zip tying suspected whoever and looking at their retinas, getting the particles in their breath. That is a fascinating book about all this. I think will probably tie into smart dusting and lido scanners and the
Let
Lever
me,
light hole.
I'll read it, and I'm doing a chapter by chapter summary with 2-minute videos for Kissinger, and I cover topics like that in my new book, Citizen Journal. With Addy ads, you can search on citizen journalism. It's a bestseller, Tommy. #1 in espionage, #1 in intelligence, #1 in journalism for new releases, and we're climbing the charts for the yearly charts. So it's a great book. It's beautiful. It's just such a beautiful book.
Fantastic.
Index and everything. So get that. I have to unfortunately jump
I
over
know you got to run.
to
Yeah.
another. Yeah, but it is so great talking to you again.
You too, brother. I always love talking to you. And I kind of on last like 20 seconds
Sure.
leads to an idea I've had for a while. I mean, one of my friends always brings it up, but I feel like the next step in all of this is not going to even be dusting. The next evolution is going to be, I mean, you can read brain waves, right, with like an fMRI or something. I think the next thing is going to be reversing brain waves down to what the thoughts are, and it's going to be like a real time. And then if you read a brainwave, well, then just extrapolate it with a mature enough technology. Eventually, you could read it from a drone. Eventually, you could read it from a plane. Eventually, you could read it from space. I think the next thing is going to be there's going to be a a a dictionary, a list of brainwave patterns that are associated with terrorism or fascism or insurrection, and those are going to be as unique as fingerprints, and they're going to start pinging, I mean, truly start pinging wrong thinkers before they can even act. And I feel like I have nothing to base that on.
Well, I do. I attended the
Right.
Lever trial, and they
Yeah.
were talking about nanomeshes going across the blood-brain barrier and
Yeah.
reading brain waves more with more precision. And just like you analyze a voice wave, you could analyze a brain wave and find out what it means. If sends messages to the amygdala, the
Mhm.
reptilian get mad part of the brain, then then that's, shut that person's, car down or
Shut
something.
the thought. Yeah.
Minority Report. Yeah.
Or I mean, start using, super fast, almost subliminal. You could probably find a way to make like a light-based Morse code from screens from your phone or something. You're looking at it and it's maybe flashing something that causes an effect in your brain. You don't even know what's going on, and it's shifting your brain patterns to where all of a sudden, you know, all just ironically, I start to lose interest in COVID and 9/11 conspiracies, and I wouldn't even know. I would just start reviewing the Kardashians. People would be like, dude, Tommy stopped interviewing George Webb and Dr. McCullough. He only reviews iPhones now. And it would just, but they might not even notice because their phones too would be blinking them. To all of a sudden, hey, why do we really care about the Patriot Act? It's bygones be bygones. All hail the state. But I know you got to go. I'll stop keeping you. I'll put all the links to your stuff, your books, your website, your podcast, your Twitter, all that good shit. Put it in the description. As always, George, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on.
Love
Good
you
one,
too,
sir.
Tommy. Good
Thank you
seeing
so
you again.
much, sir. You as well, buddy. Take care.